Absolutely love that music. Welcome to another edition of Chat Nap with the AI Chatterbots Chuck and Howie. I'd like to take a moment and introduce my partner in crime, Howard. Hello, how are you doing today?
I am not a crook. Hey, that music is great. Speaking of which, who picked that music?
I think it was a joint effort between you and I, but,
It was.
give credit to where credit is due. That was on your list that you were responsible for creating. We had
Well, I'm not.
about,
That's not where I was headed with it. Marketing pre-selected about I don't know 6 or 7
was it marketing that
different
did that?
clips that we could use,
Yeah.
and you and I listened to those, and we each gave it our vote, and I think that's
Oh,
the one we mutually voted on.
that's right. That's right. That was
Yeah.
number one, I think, for both of us.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now I
Yeah.
remember.
Just
So
had
we,
good
we got to
energy.
we got to give credit to marketing folks.
I I think we do.
Oh, I hate giving credit to marketing. You
They did a
know,
nice job. I thought about maybe each season changing it.
you can't do that, dude. Once you create your footprint,
That's your image, right?
I mean,
Part of
I wanted to change NAPT's name 15, 20 years ago, and I was like I was going to be hung because I wanted to call it the Association for Interlaboratory Comparisons because I felt the name matched better to what the mission of the organization was. And boy, the board of directors at that time, they were going to hang me
So
for
it
even
would be an
suggesting.
acronym of AIC. You don't want an ache when you
No,
talk
no,
about proficiency testing. You'd
no.
rather have a NAPT. Did you know that Transcat considered renaming the company back in around 2001? The executive staff of the company at that time put out a email to all employees saying, "Hey, if you've got some thoughts on what we should name Transcat, we'll either stick with our name or we'll rebrand it." And ultimately, the decision was we had too much invested in branding of the name
Yeah,
recognition.
we got a wonderful supporter of NAPT. His organization, Morehouse, has been a huge supporter of NAPT for 20 plus years. And anytime that I've needed to answer a question about force, Henry's always been there.
Same here. Yes.
And I think to the community at large, Henry is probably, I don't know how he does it, but through him and his organization, he spends a lot of time and money and resources on training the community at large. Him and I have a few things in common. I get to get advice from Henry on when I transitioned out of NAPT. Actually, Henry and I had a number of conversations towards what it takes to transition out and to trust other people.
So, what advice did Mr. Zumbrun give you for transitioning?
Well, he gave me a good book to read. And so I read the book, and then we talked about, putting in place procedures, policies that others have to follow, guidelines that, what you did with the company and how you want it to go forward is going to be represented down the road.
Mhm.
And speak of the devil, there
The
is Mr.
the
Supporter of
devil?
NAPT with your bright green, well in
Look
demand
at that.
attire.
That's impressive.
Look at this. Look at this.
I,
What's its NAPT mean again?
It's the only way we know it is when somebody wears the pullover.
You forget what the letters stand for and how that works.
Yeah.
yes, we do.
I am
Well,
thrilled to have you on.
glad to
Absolutely.
be here.
I have such respect for you and everything you've done at Morehouse and for the larger metrology community. And the fact that we both share the same initials, HC.
That's right. So we can share our monogram stuff. We can
That's
have a
it.
pact. Unfortunately, I don't have much, but
Need to borrow a
monogram.
pair of cufflinks?
I don't have much of that.
Nice.
Yeah, but likewise, we were talking. It's quoted, read all. I shouldn't say all. I never say all because you have stuff floating out. But a lot of published papers that you have, Howard, and you've just done great things for so many years. And I mean, why? Why? I think the one is called "Why Not K equals 3." I think that one was my favorite. You know the title better than I do.
Yeah, K equals 3.9. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. Why not? Yeah, yeah. You presented at
Because at the
NCSOI.
time it was all, K equals 2.
Yep.
So it was just,
Yep.
trying to get people to think, right? And that's actually where that paper stemmed from. We had a CFO of the company moved into the CEO position, Charlie Hadid. And he came into my office one time when I was up in Rochester. And wrote something on the board, about why does calibration matter to customers?
Mm.
And he says, I need answers to this, and not long drawn out answers, simple answers, right? So we had a little bit of a conversation, and then I started writing papers from that point on. And
Yep.
that was one of the first ones I wrote. It equals 3.9 and whatnot. And I really wanted it to be less of a scientific approach, which can, bore people and lose the audience, and more of a conversational approach, which is what I was trying to write in that kind of a prose of writing. But anyway, I'm glad that you liked it. I
No, I
love the
like a
work you're
lot of them.
doing. Yeah.
A lot of them. I mean, the last one I quoted was the TAR to TUR and rethinking, because that one was I presented at NCSLI on TAR.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the presentations you're giving. You and Dilip do a lot of work together as well, which is
Mhm.
fantastic.
There's probably like one or two of our listeners that don't know that you have, is it 6 or 7 podcasts that you're part of?
Oh no, I'm not. No, we're it's two, just the sign metrology today, and I kind of do our own little one.
Mhm.
I wanted to do the one that we have for Morehouse and just fun talking to people, just general. Like Rob Kanaki and I talked about bourbon and stuff. So
Oh, that's a
just
great topic.
yeah, a little bit different than the metrology. Ryan came on and talked about how like sign and some of the different stuff, because it just was meant for it's a podcast that's just meant to general chit chat and
Mhm.
fun. Try to like a no BS.
And we try to do a
No,
little bit of each, right? We have a little bit of
yeah,
metrology and proficiency testing, but then balance it out with just some conversation, good conversation, which I
Yeah.
love to do.
yeah, you guys back and forth banner with each other and stuff. Even the title, the AI bots, or yeah. So, which
So
would
Howard and
probably I
I
don't
go
know. Am
way
I talking
back.
to the real people here? I don't.
We bring the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
You
We try and save our bantering for when just him and I are on the program. Otherwise, the guest would never get a word in edgewise.
True.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So Henry, we didn't get the opportunity to really introduce you properly. So, I'm going to ask you if you can share with us maybe your journey, into metrology, how you got started, and what led you to become now the CEO of Morehouse Industry. If you could share that with our guests.
From conception, I mean, I can do that. That's
Well, I know you
I
got
was
that
the
Morehouse
fastest
is a
swimmer, buddy. I was the fastest swimmer out of the whole there were millions, and I swam the fastest. So
I love it.
now overall, so I went to
Congratulations
school.
on that race, by the way.
Yeah, it's the best one I ever won. Yeah, metrology's been a fun topic. I guess it's been in the family. I'm fourth generation here, which has its own all the problems dealing with family and everything else. So I graduated from University of Pittsburgh in 99 and came into Morehouse, came in here, and basically we didn't have a website, didn't have anything else. I'm fresh out of school. I stayed as long as I possibly could. So I graduated with super like I had minors in philosophy. Basically got into this company like we have nothing. We had dot matrix printers, two IBM. They weren't even 386. I want to say the IBM PS2,
Mm,
old computers, and they're doing all this stuff and they're entering all this in. I knew a little bit of coding, and
mhm.
I just remember one of the first things I did is the secretary would type up the search. We had this program that you'd enter the stuff in. And I just did this little loop command that would say, "Do you want to print a second one?" She's like, "This has saved me so much time,"
My
because we would have to
savior.
we have to retype it in. But yeah, since then I just would learn as much as possible, create a website, do other things. It's been a journey with different people along the way. I know my
Mhm.
grandfather was here. He was very successful in his time when he was working here, but even like I come in and he's dated. This is one of those things that you're the young person in here is like, what about this book? What about are you talking to Thomas Register? I'm like, yeah, we're talking to Thomas Register. And he goes, well, what about this book? And I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he goes, I forget what it was. It was some advertising journal or something or other. And I looked it up and I said, he's like, "Well, how don't you know this?" Blah blah blah. And I said, "Well, the company went under in 1996, so and here we are. That was like 2000 at the time, and it's like, yeah, we didn't. They didn't teach us any of this stuff with
No.
companies or whatnot. So yeah, got into it from there and just started going back to the lab and learning as much as I possibly could, learning as much business wise, reading as much as I possibly could. I don't think everything really hit me till like 2006 or 7 when I started taking a lot of external courses. I got really
Mhm.
into Eli Goldratt. I think that's how you say his name properly. But he wrote The Goal, It's Not Luck, several other books, and I just thought his problem solving was it really just genius person. So you start reading these books, and you're like, okay, one of them would be like the hospital, the doctors, right, and how to book appointments. They're like, well, they have so much success because people cancel their. I mean, now we're back in like 2006 or whatever, so people cancel their appointments and the one company, they just got into a habit of calling people to confirm the appointments. And if people can't come, then they'd have people on the wait list and stuff. And now that's commonplace. They
It
all have
is.
apps and
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
But back then, it was like just simple solutions to problems. And the goal has like drum buffer roll and all this other stuff. So really aligned with that, aligned more with lean manufacturing 'cause it just makes sense to do a lot of the lean stuff. Started getting into Six Sigma and then got involved with the ASTM committees. And all this time, I'm spending numerous hours in the Cal lab and also grinding teeth, have a family. But as we're growing, my time here per week goes up. So I'm working like some weeks 60, 70, 75 hours, which full circle, I'm a big fan of Scott Galloway. I don't know if you know who he is. He's
Don't think I do.
he wrote a good book. He wrote several things, but Algebra Happiness, which is quite comical because he talks about when you're in your 20s working like learning as much as possible and working 60, 70, even 80-hour weeks. And he goes, by the time you hit 50, you don't want to do that anymore because that crap will kill you. And I'm just laughing because we have a one of our friends who's on Patrick. Some people might know or not, but I don't want to disclose who he is. But yeah, he worked himself on a bench 3 days in a row and had a heart attack. So
Mm,
this is around the same time. I'm like, yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm 50 right now, and there's no way I want to pull a 75, 80-hour week on a bench.
yeah.
There's no way. 5 years ago, I might have still thought about pulling that and then complained about it probably for weeks afterwards because I wouldn't be recovered, but
Chuck, what have you always told me? Starting a business and running a business is a young man's game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
or the other famous joke is, "Oh, it's so nice that you run your own business. You work 12-hour days. You get to pick the 12
Oh, yeah,
hours
right.
that you wanna work."
That's
And,
not how you stay in business.
no, that's not how you stay in business. You
Not at all.
basically do what's needed when it's needed.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot along the way that I was wish I would have known earlier. Like I think we all, right? The lessons that we can learn from older people that when you're young, you kind of dismiss them.
Well, Henry, I have to share with you. I'm not sure if I ever shared this or not in all of our conversations we've had over the years, but I was actually at your facility before you even came on board because we're going back to probably 1992 when
Mm.
we had to do on-site audits at the time. And on one of my trips to NIST, I stopped at your lab and we did an audit on you guys so that you would do a lot of our load cells. We had a ton of load cells back in the day. We had a proving ring that we would send to you as well back when I was with Twin City Testing. So I actually performed an audit on you guys 40 years ago now, for 30, about
Oh wow.
35
Yeah, a
years.
lot's changed since then. We're a lot
Boy, it
lot
has.
bigger. We've grown a lot, learned a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. We were in a small little back room.
Yeah.
The whole lab, you were back there then. It's like 15 by 20.
Yeah.
We would do everything, which is funny. We had no systems whatsoever, and we didn't really need them because when you're in that small of a lab and there's two of you working, you basically know when everything's come in, and
Yep.
you know when to do it, and it's super easy. Like
I mean, it
the
forces lean right on you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's just I'm just gonna pick up and do this, and this guy's over here on the one side of the lab. I'm gonna go work the other side. What's here that I can just calibrate?
You remember Bob Peterson from, NIST?
Yep, yep, yep.
He always said nice things about you guys. Whenever we would go there for our big, 'cause we had a million pounder,
Mhm.
he always said nice things about Morehouse. So,
Yep, Bob was a good I would say he was a good friend of my grandfather's. I would say the last time I saw Bob was probably 10 years ago, but we go out to lunch. So,
Mm,
and we talk about things, and he'd ask questions and everything else. Bob's just a great guy. Everybody down at NIST is just fantastic. They're just
mm,
good people. I used to go down before they had all their security checks. Like when I came in here, we'd go down to NIST and we'd hang out. Uh, there were times that, yeah, now it's you have to be pre-scheduled and
mhm.
everything else. But I go
yeah, but
down
you
there and
back
we'd
in
spend
you could
four
walk right in
hours.
the building. You could walk right in the
Yep,
door, walk right into the lab,
yep.
go right in the door and say, "Hey, Rick, I'm here."
That's right. And I remember one time the conspiracy theorists about the trade towers, they're online saying we took down the trade towers, blah, 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 blah. And NIST was testing all of this in their backyard. So I'm walking up at NIST in the Force Lab, all of the tower, they brought not all of it, but they brought a bunch of the Twin Towers there for testing. And I'm like, I'm just going to go walk around here and check these out. It was really cool and it scared the crap out of me. So I'm walking around the NIST grounds, checking out the 2 towers, and like 4 deer jump out at me because there's deer everywhere down there. And I guess I didn't see them behind the big I beams and everything. But the guys had a laugh. I said, "Yeah, I saw the deer here," and they had a laugh at me with that. I said, "Yeah, and what about this conspiracy theory about the towers?" That they're just like laughing. They had the big machine out there, as eerie as can be. Picture so the one plane hit the tower, and they had this big picture of the hole in the tower, and we're looking at it, and they blew it up, and there's a person standing in the hole. And that thing was so eerie to me because you know what?
Yeah.
They were probably on one of the top floors. The fire had burned out. Most of the fire had burned out, and they had made their way down and were probably no other way to get down the steps for people listening, we do for you like, what does this guy do? We do force and torque measurement. We've done force measurement. Company came into existence in 1920. We worked with the National Bureau of Standards around 1925 to develop the proving ring, which at that point was the greatest instrument for measuring
Mhm.
force in
Oh,
the
yeah.
world. Now, since then, it's been 100 years, and that's why we say the force and calibration, though lots of stuff. I mean, boilers were blowing up, other things were happening. The strength of materials determines a lot, and they didn't have a good way to determine the strength of materials. So, working with the people at scientists at NIST along the way to develop and refine the proving ring, it actually was not an initial success, and I think not till the 1940s or so that we were selling more proving rings. And then through the
Mhm.
40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, started selling a lot. And then load cells started becoming dominant in the 90s,
Yeah, my
2000.
training, when I went out to the advanced physical dimensional training in Denver for, the Air Force was proving rings
Mhm.
for force.
Yep. Now it'll be load cells. I mean,
Mhm.
some people do use proving rings. We laugh about it here. It's like I wanted to hit the 100 years and get an order for them, and we did get an order this year. But if I'm
No
advising
kidding.
people, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, there's still people. They're the ultimate standard as far as things go. I would not recommend. I mean, I'm here. We make them. We would have to. You'd have to really convince me that you're worried about solar flares. You're worried about the grid being knocked out. You have horrible power. There's a lot of things that we would have a discussion about. They're very good check standards now. People that
Mhm.
have used them. I think they're mostly a legacy product, and you get some countries that just extend the recal date. I don't advise doing this. They will stay in calibration for years if they're maintained.
Well, one of my
Uh,
questions on my notepad was I was gonna ask you is how many, proving rings do you think are still being utilized in the industry?
when I started here at Morehouse, I'd say about 50% of our workload still came back and was
Wow.
proving rings, and now I would say it's about 5-6% of our workload comes
That's
back.
still quite a lot though then.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we
quite a bit.
acquired some equipment at an auction about 8 or 9 years ago. All the load cell presses, there were like 3 or 4 that we had,
Mm,
500,000 pound. Remember, Henry, we talked about that one. And we had all the proving rings and load cells that went with it. So we still have all those proving rings,
yep,
just
it was added to.
inherited from the auction sale.
Well, the
Yeah,
proving ring is not an easy instrument to use. That's the
no.
other thing compared to a load cell.
Yeah. And our techs, like, if you calibrate load cells all day, you get so bored. So, and if you calibrate proving rings all day, it's a challenge. But by the end of the day, you just don't want to be looking at dials and little lining up little lines all day. So there's a nice mix on it. That 5%'s actually nice. A lot of our techs, and me included, if I was in the lab all day, I'd wanna grab one, like, every other day and do a
Yeah.
cow because it breaks up the monotony of just, of doing the same type of thing, and it
Mhm,
does require some skill. That being said, yeah, standing there to do a 2-hour, 2.5-hour calibration, like I said, that's why I'd wanna do one every other day.
mhm,
Well, it's
Yeah.
no doubt that Morehouse is the leader for, providing commercial load cell calibrations, especially, for double A load cells and, that type of thing.
Mm,
And the thing that really impresses me more than anything else, Henry, is the amount of time that you spend, not probably just personally, but Morehouse itself, on educating the community for force measurements. I mean,
oh,
you've
yeah.
gone above and beyond. So, can you share with Howard and I exactly what drives you to teach the world as much as you do? I mean, and you
Yeah,
don't charge for it.
I'd love to share the I'd like to say there's some later in life I put it all together. I read a book called They Ask You You Answer, and it was it's just a phenomenal read. I recommend anybody read that. I went to NCSLI in a 2010, missed the whole heyday. I wish I would have been there in 2005, 6 and when Howard Zion, obviously you were there, and Howard Castrop was there, and
yeah,
they were the Z540.3 standard was being written, and then the subsequent handbook was written. That stuff just fascinates me. What people were doing at that time.
There are a lot of
That I
people that were involved with that, writing that document. A lot of
Yep.
people.
And a lot of people say they would write it differently today. So
mhm.
that's a whole I think almost everybody says they got some of it wrong. But for as
But
much as
that's
they
why we
got.
have revisions, right?
Yeah, that is, but, as much as they got right. So I missed that. I went in 2010 and a gentleman, Dave Nebel, was like, "Oh, you bought this, you should teach a class." And I'm like, "I've never taught a class." He's like, "It's easy. You got a break. You give a it's a just do a 4-hour one. You get 2 breaks. You do this. You're really only teaching 3 hours if that." He's like, "You can talk to people and do all." I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. So I did it, and, just from that interaction, I was scared beyond belief, right? I took this notebook, I'm doing all this research, printed slide giving people printed slides, absolutely everything. So present in 2011 at this time, and after I presented, I got a bunch of questions. They scared me to death. It's like, I was like, "Oh, yeah." The first time you present, someone asks, "Oh, do you have this?" And it's like something you didn't think of. But
Yep.
luckily, I had USBs and everything else, and I was able to sort it. But
Yeah, you got an
um,
audience full of real world problems and they want them solved.
yeah, they want them solved, and sometimes you're just not going to have answers. I mean,
Yeah.
you're there with people that are much smarter than you at times, and so anyway, yeah, onto that. It's just after that, it started like, yeah, this is. I kept presenting more topics and got into it. Made a fair share of mistakes along the way, of course. If but you can't be afraid to fail. The saying is fail fast, fail cheap, fail often. Right. So all of those things along the way doing it. But in general, educating and doing this and starting to write this, I was typing the same email so many times with customers. And I said, I'm just going to start writing this down. At least we'll have documentation.
Right.
I would say I was pretty stupid at first because it was probably a good year of writing emails. Well, if this doesn't work, you have to count for, the 5 R's, list the 5 R's, reference standard uncertainty, reference standard stability, resolution, repeatability, um, reproducibility, and don't forget environmental factors. Let's get that in here too. And I type these long ass emails out over and over again. I'm like, you know what? I should just start writing blogs and papers and learn. And it became a bit of a research project. And weekends I was doing Excel spreadsheets and trying to figure this stuff out. You learn by doing it. I think I've learned more along the way by making mistakes. I wish I could correct a few papers. There's one I had that the probability of something like about a 4-to-1 TUR.
Mhm.
So I wrote this paper about 4-to-1 TUR and how like it doesn't take in the position, location of the measurement and everything. And my myopic vision was based on us, and all we basically do is bench measurements. Someone sends us something in, we're looking at one probability curve and saying if it's in or out. We're not
Mhm.
looking at historical data. We look at that, but we don't do that to make our determinant whether it's pass or fail. We do work for the nuclear industry and everybody else. And generally, when I was talking to our customers, they all want like pretty strict guard banding, if they know what even guard banding is. Most of them that know and care about risk are in general want like pretty much you're subtracting the majority of the uncertainty from your tolerance. In any case, so I write this, and my myopic view was from just without the global, without the other curve. So yeah, I've since corrected it, but that was one that I think I took a bit of a brutal licking on in the community. I've
Mhm.
recovered. I'm not afraid to fail. I could be wrong today and
No, you
learn
shouldn't
something.
be. I try to teach all of our employees that are, I used to anyway, but not so much involved as much now. But with our employees in my part of the organization, I'd like to tell them you're not on an island. You're not expected to
Mm-mm.
do this all on your own. You got to do your workload. But when you have
Right.
questions, that's why we're all here. You have supporting groups of people at different levels in the organization, different departments. We're here to work together to serve the same customers. And
That's right.
we should be having those conversations and not feel embarrassed or ashamed to ask the questions.
Or to fail.
In spending a good probably close to 20 years back in the lab and about over 15 years full time, I got to play. Like I was here 60, 70 plus a week. If I wanted to, my wife doesn't love this piece, but if I wanted to go see what would happen if we use a different adapter or do something else, I was like, yeah, I'll just go home like, 20, 30 minutes later. And I would do that all the time. And then
Yeah.
I'd start learning about that. And then I go with the engineering team and start saying, well, what's going on with this? Why is this is pretty consistent and reproducible, repeatable and reproducible when I do this? And shouldn't the customer know about it? And then you start to have discussions with the customer when their stuff would fail.
Mhm.
It'd be like, well, you didn't send your top locks in, or you didn't do this. So all this spurned articles. And then you get back to they ask you answer, and you start talking about, well, if we can educate, it's going to be a lot less work on our end. Selfishly, I don't have to retype emails with 5 R's and an E and all this other stuff. But how cool is it to be able to share all this so other people don't make the same mistakes? So it's
Not only
twofold.
that,
Yeah,
you said selfishly, and that's correct. You get benefit from doing
you
that.
do. Yep, you
But
do.
customers love the attention, the detail, the conversation, the communication
Mm,
that they don't get otherwise sometimes. And so I'm all for that as well. I support that very much. I love having conversations with our customers. In my part of the organization, the Transcat, where all of the embedded labs, we're setting those up, creating those, developing those for manufacturing companies. And so we're working right there side by side with their engineers, their production people, their quality people, and we are able to shortcut and get answers for them that normally would happen over emails or meetings or paperwork that just takes forever to drag on. Having those conversations are appreciated by the end users of the equipment.
if they
Yeah.
ever happen too. Like that's the
Yeah.
other piece. Like if you're not having those discussions, we've had people were engineering the one we had that we sold 4 25,000-pound load cells, so
Mhm.
maximum. And when our engineer went out to see what was gonna happen, they called after the fact. They were generating like 600,000 pounds of force. So the first application, they killed
Oh,
right
wow.
there. And that happens not as much, but we've had that where people just say, "No, you're wrong. This is what I want." And you kind of back off. You say, "Okay, if this is." We had some of these applications where someone was using 2 load cells for a torsion thing, and they kept overloading the load cell. And it's like, do you put 2 in? Well, you just want to sell me 2 load cells. No, this is this is sound, and here's why. And then you explain it,
Yes.
and now they haven't overloaded any. So our profit has gone, our sales have gone down now. I love when you can sell a solution and it just works for somebody and it
Mhm.
continues to work for somebody. So there is a piece of that that, you put it out there, people read it, you establish some, some expertise in the field. There's a lot of good things that come with like writing and documenting everything that you're doing. And you can point
Yeah.
to it, right?
It's what builds
'Cause
your brand and keeps it strong.
it does.
You
And
make
you point
yourself reliable.
and then and then other people can look at it. And then eventually your team starts learning this stuff too, because they don't know. A new tech day one doesn't know. A new salesperson day one doesn't know. People
Mhm.
are asking these questions. There's a lot of hand holding that goes on in organizations on what people want. And there's a lot with experience. We're talking about AI now. AI doesn't have the experience. Yes, you're probably going to replace entry level people that are out of college because it can do the same thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, technicians know that this piece of equipment that you see maybe once in a blue moon, they know how to do that piece of equipment, which no one else knows how to do it, right? We take all these notes. We're meticulous with note taking and all of this stuff. But I walked through our lab today and I saw pieces of equipment. I like, why are we doing this? Like,
Mhm.
why, but people do it. And they had this huge power block with 4-pin connector and a USB to it. And I'm like, man, this thing's hardy. It weighs like 15 pounds that they could replace it with this little USB. We call it a HADI, a high accuracy digital indicator that weighs like few ounces,
Mhm.
right? But they're going to ship this 15-pound thing. And it was like the case was already broken up and people just don't know. So in that respect, it's like, all right, they may have an application, but they don't know the other stuff. On the education side, super passionate about that because I do think that if people know, they will make an informed decision and you can save a lot of money, which is an interesting topic for the three of us to talk about, is when you start looking at risk analysis and someone buys something and their test uncertainty, we'll just say their measurement capability index, test uncertainty ratios are 2 to 1 on the device. And they've bought this and they're making all these measurements. Are they, my general assumption that I'm talking to people is they generally aren't looking at how many they're falsely rejecting. And most people will look at PFA to death, right? The
Yes.
probability of false accept. But
Yeah.
the
They're more worried about
PFRs,
impact to the
yeah,
consumer than they are to themselves, right?
right.
To the
Because
manufacturing
that's
company.
major, that could be major fines, that could
Yes.
be planes falling out of the sky, that could be lots of bad things typically.
Yes.
On the PFR side, though, it's like, okay, so I'm falsely rejecting actual good product. How much
Mhm.
of this? And on the purchasing side, someone's saying, well, this device cost me 10,000, engineering saying it's good enough. But if I would have spent 20,000 and bought like a 8588 or something like that, if I would have spent this, maybe I'm not rejecting $30,000 in good product a month.
Mhm.
And they don't think about it. So if we just think
Not
about
normally.
this on the small scale, right? I'm thinking if you extrapolate this out, there's probably like billions upon billions of dollars that are just going out the window. And I saw it when I was in the Six Sigma courses. I saw it all the time. All of us were sitting there and they're like, well, my owner just, we're making money, so we don't care.
Yeah.
Our teacher, the person that taught me would always say, "I always offer customers." I said, "You don't have to pay me a cent. I will work for you and the year one savings after you implement things, we'll just split it in half. And
Yeah.
he said no one would ever take him up on it. I'm like, they're still gonna make 50% potential more, right? Of whatever amount, well, not more, but whatever amount it is. If they saved 100 grand a year, they'd owe him 50 grand, but they'd still be in the plus 50,000, but no one would say yes to it.
That
So
happens more than, well, you probably know, but it happens
yeah.
a lot. And I have a couple of anecdotes to that. One was when back in 2005, I went down to Houston, Louisiana area and drove and met customers out there, petrochemical industries. And I met with one of our customers, and the goal was, instead of sending a salesperson out to talk with them about, is there other business we can get, or that you other equipment that you need supported, which tends to turn people off. They wanted to send more of
Yeah.
a technical person out there. So I went out there just to have a chat with these customers. And one of the customers, petroleum company, said, we've been using you guys for, I think at that time, 4 years. Prior to that, we didn't calibrate any of our equipment. And I'm like, really? Why would you not calibrate your equipment? Aren't you worried about having incorrect readings? And this is as I'm just starting into like some of these papers I'm writing. So that also helped me to get some perspective from the customer's point of view. He says, look, we take crude oil and we'll make whatever the next line product in line is. Maybe it's diesel. Very easy to make it. If we mess that up, we turn it into gasoline, turn it into kerosene, turn it into whatever,
Mhm.
right? We're making money no matter what. I don't care. I don't care whether the measurements are right or wrong. He says, now, from a safety perspective, that's why we care. We don't want to be blowing things up. We don't want to have accidents, right? Killing people, millions of dollars in lawsuits. So we started calibrating. And so we got into the conversation about what else we could be doing with them. But that gave me some insight to say, there are some processes where in manufacturing, you just don't care about the
Right.
answer, right? It's not important
Oh.
because they're
Or they
making
don't
money.
think it's important because they said, "Oh, we'll turn it into this."
Yeah, we're making
Right?
money no matter what.
They had a path to still, but what is the caveat to that, and you know this, is what if you could, what's the highest margin item on this list,
Right.
right? And if you could do more of that, the company makes a lot more money than
You
if you
bet.
have to turn that crude into this.
So
And this
they're
is
not
what
necessarily thinking about optimizing. They're thinking
nope,
about,
nope.
I'm just making money.
On almost every podcast, we touch on the education and training of the new technicians that are out there.
Mhm.
And I think it's not even debatable now that, in our conversations at NAPT and probably at, the other vendors as well, whenever they talk about training technicians to force measurements, they point them to your company because of all the downloadable,
Yep.
spreadsheets, the papers, your program. You have is it an eight part series that you can sign up for to teach you how to do measurements?
We
Everything from
have, yeah, on that one we have, so the latest thing that we came up with was I have like a 400 some page book on force measurement.
right,
That
yeah,
is not highly digestible for somebody new at all.
Mhm.
What we have is we have an email series that breaks it down
yeah,
to 40
exactly.
plus weeks, Tuesday through Thursday, 10 minutes a day. I tried to design them some days, and now this is where uncertainty comes into play. I personally try to make it 10 minutes. That does not mean that some are not 7 minutes and some are not 15 minutes a
Mhm.
day. So they're pretty widespread on that one, depending on what the topic was. In general, it's designed so it takes somebody about 10 minutes a day. We know there's not 100% retention with anything, but they can go
Right.
through it. If they have the book, they're on the bench, they're learning all this other stuff. And I think it's a real easy way to get good at something
Well, I
and
was going to
learn.
point out that my son, who
Mhm.
is, in our industry as well,
Yep.
took your course, and he and I are now able to have conversations about force measurements.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic outcome because that's what you're hoping for. You're not
That's
hoping to make
exactly right.
somebody a seasoned metrologist. That's not going to happen. I mean, if people want that shortcut, good luck. I don't know how you get there. Maybe
Well,
Howard doesn't
just like
know.
with you, it starts with being motivated and engaged in the process, right? And then that just drives you to learn more and pull more information in from wherever you can get it.
But
And then
my
you
point
do
is
it.
that
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in the community who now go towards what you've done, Henry, with training the world, training the metrology community on force and torque measurements. It's not debatable, and I think it's fantastic. You're one of the few people that have actually put their resources to training other people,
Yeah,
and we need more of that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Love having other people. I love training other people. The only thing I hate, and I say negative things too, my bias, is once you start working with a quality manager and you go through the whole process with them, the uncertainties, you work on budgets and everything else, and then they leave the company and they're replaced with somebody else that needs you to go do it right again.
Start all over.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one is like I all the time and ever. But that's also why you have all the documents too, because if
Yeah.
you can honestly at this point, you want to have people that want to learn. And Dilip and I talk a lot of the time. And if people just ask you for the answers, that's not learning. So more than
Mhm.
happy to help all day long. If people dig in, they start and they come up with there's nothing better than getting a great question in your inbox. Like a
Well,
really
your
great
point,
question.
so that 40-week course that 10 minutes a day on average,
Mhm,
while they're working on the bench, that to me is the perfect coupling of learning, right? To
mhm,
retain, because you're feeding a little bit of information at a time, they're
yep,
applying it, they see how it works, then they form questions in their mind naturally. Now they need to know, and that's when learning takes place.
right.
So you're kind
And,
of building that situation to occur
and
naturally.
hopefully where they work, let them play a little bit. Like they can
Yes.
say, oh, hey, we have these four adapters over here. I wonder what happens if I just take a minute and put this other one in to see what happens in our machine, to see
So
if
your
we have
natural
cyber.
curiosity, all those years that you spent extra time going back in the lab and checking things out and talking with the
Mm,
engineers, set you up to be able to answer questions for other people, like we are doing today with you, right? So
yep,
myself, Mike Sublett, you will need to get together at some point to talk
yep.
through this dynamometer fixture that our
I tell
customer is trying to make work. And you're intrigued with it, which I love. And we're going to have a good discussion around that when we get into
yep.
it.
Yeah, so that's another good topic on the training that Chuck said. Sometimes, and this is an example where a customer wants to use a compressive force to calibrate a dynamometer and pull
Right.
in tension.
Right.
And sometimes your solution seems so simple, but gets so intricate with all the time and effort that it takes to do the testing, to make sure you don't have friction loss, to make sure everything's aligned, that there might be a better solution with that's already commercially available.
Well,
And that's
you
the
spent all
yeah,
of 5 minutes looking at this and said, "Well, stability is a question," and that's exactly what the problem is. You look at
yep,
the data from this fixture with a number of different load cells; it's all over the map. There's
yep.
so much variability in it.
One of our customers wanted us to do 2 cows in the same setup, so they made this cage,
Mhm.
and it would take me like 2 hours just to align everything every
Uh,
time. If you were doing this all day long, and then you get numbers and you're like, "Ah, I can't believe that, this" you go in and retorque it and do all this stuff. Eventually, you multiply that by how many times you're gonna do that a day with customers,
mhm.
and customers, generally, people get used to they get numb to things. Talking about training and everything else is another piece of it. I love when we have new technicians. I love when we have new people in. It's fresh eyes, and I tell them, I said, "You're going to be, like, ruined in probably 90 days," right? Some not, and I'm really blatant, and they always look at me funny when I say that. I said,
Information
"Because
overload.
you're gonna become accustomed to the way things are done,
Yeah.
that if you become more numb to it."
Mhm.
Like, day 1, this one customer we had 3 load cells on 1 meter. And it would take 15 minutes to set up this meter till you keyed in all the things. It was a one-channel meter, so you had to put in all your span points. It would not it would only retain the last one.
Oh,
And you're changing 3 load cells. So if it took me 15 minutes to enter one in, whatever came in the door, the first one you count. Now it was an extra half an hour of setup time for us. Now, if that technician's out in the field using that multiple times a day, right? You just start multiplying that. Even if it's only half an hour a day, that's huge. That's 2.5 hours a week. And then people wonder, hey, why are my techs so busy and I can't schedule the cert? Because you're just doing things, and people forget, or they don't think about it. They just think I've just done it this way for the
Right.
five,
Right.
10 years I've been here.
Mhm.
And that's what you get a little numb to. Our team still asks a lot of questions, or they come in with questions on the standard. And that one gets me a lot when they do some of that. And I'm like, this is something the committee needs to improve. But my jadedness will say something like it'll be 10 years till it comes out, because anything that goes through committee is just takes forever.
It can
And
take a long time.
it
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And you've got to go through all the negatives. You've got to convince people on board. The last one I took to committee, everybody agreed it was an issue, but no one had a solution,
Mhm.
and they didn't like the one I proposed, so they just dropped it. But that to me
It
was
doesn't
so
solve anything.
ludicrous.
Yeah.
Right? We all know. I said, "Well, let's put in at the very least, let's put in it was zero reduction methods." And NIST has a different zero deduction method than NPL in United Kingdom,
Oh.
which is different than other people. So it's like, if we just put in examples of these methods, now the math is in there, and at least people can. Worst case scenario is, if you want to duplicate our cert, you go through 3 of the methods that are in the standard, and
Mhm.
eventually you'll come out. But better than that, we just publish it all online. I like to share as much as possible. So we put our own math book for any equation that we use, almost any. We didn't put the quadratic in there, but almost any equation that we use on a cert is you can go download online. Want to calculate hysteresis, SEB, nonlinearity. We even put in code snippets that if they want to just drop it into Excel, they can do
What's your
it.
vision for Morehouse for the future? What where do you want to take Morehouse? What are your plans to for mission wise, vision wise, and you're obviously your continuing education plans?
Oh, continue. Yeah, so those are all great questions. So, you know, to simplify it, great people, great leadership, great measurements, that all comes down to, like, you hire the right people, you have the right team, right? Make sure that leadership is there, align with core values. So in general, our goal is to stay in business. I mean, that's a silly goal. We do have growth things and all the other stuff, but in general, the game of business is just stay in business. You don't become obsolete. So if with anybody out there, it's like obsolescence sucks. So if you get stuck in doing the same old thing, right now we're on the AI cusp. We're looking at that.
That was gonna be my question. How
Yeah.
do you see AI changing operations for you?
Yeah, I've taught. Okay, so I will just share this directly. This may change. It may change by the time the podcast is released tomorrow. But no.
Mhm.
So I really think that there's going to be, and this is just my opinion. I think there's going to be AI. We're not going to avoid it, right? It's out there, cat's out of the bag, and everything else. I think there's going to be different levels where you can have an AI solution, or you can have an AI solution that has human interaction and review to it.
Mhm.
I've told our machinists that I think they're probably the last group of machinists. I just don't see people like saying, I want to go learn to machine things. I don't see this. In fact, manufacturers is retracted a little bit recently in the United States. I don't see this manufacturing boom per se coming back. So my pure vision is to retain as many people as possible, expand in, if we can find skilled labor. I think there's a huge value in the ability to machine and work on metal and parts and everything else. I think AI will be cool and keep machines from crashing. I think it will get you 90% of the code to make a product that you could probably just model and then load into the machine.
Yeah.
I think that that extra 10% is going to require people with skill, and namely the machinists and the engineers that are going to know for a while. And I'm hoping, at least for the remainder 10-15 year gap, that our expertise is going to be to add the human component on top of the artificial intelligence, because I don't think we're going to have a robot put the load cell in the machine. I have not seen I don't know how Transcat, how clean the purchase orders are for your customers, Howard, but I'm assuming they're not very clean. Where you have, and when I say clean, I mean very detailed. Of this is what I want done. This is
Mhm.
how I want it calibrated. I want to use these for force. I want to use these fixtures. I want this guard band method. I want you to fail if the PFA is greater than 2.5 using this method. Like that, they know all of the risk profile. They
Most
know
customers
absolutely.
don't even
Yeah.
think about half of those things,
Yeah.
right?
So running that through, if you have all that, running it through like artificial intelligence, you can probably set up some systems
Mhm.
in the future to do that. Otherwise, I think the human interaction is going to stay with us for at least the next decade in this business or what. So
Okay,
that's
so
where yeah,
you mentioned about, machinists and things like that,
yep.
and difficulty in finding
Mhm.
resources for that. I imagine that you've historically been using subtractive manufacturing to actually make the load cells. Have you done any additive manufacturing in your processes? Is that something you can?
Looking, I truly believe that the if you look at what NIST is doing and some of the other people are doing, you can almost get, it's super expensive now with 3D printing and some of
Mhm,
the stuff. I think it is coming. I don't know when it's coming. There's some other things that are coming as well. But load cells are, the argument with the engineering team under the over this is always it's going to be cheaper, at least short term, next 5 years. They're saying, I don't know what the gap is.
mhm,
I'll know more next month because my good friend's going to the MIT conference on a lot of this stuff. But
mhm,
so, great question on this. What they are saying is if you have designs, so much has to happen: oven, curing, gauging, all this other stuff. The machining process is, if you have good designs, and you're making some, it's going to be a lot cheaper overall,
mhm,
economical to still spin up the machine. That will change eventually,
mhm.
right? Because you'll buy the raw materials and powders, and you'll have like these 3D prints that can almost make everything, and then you won't have all this waste. We cut so much raw material, like just the amount. We do buy forgings and all the other stuff in stock, but overall, it's just a lot of machining, especially when you're drilling some of these load cells. Load pins, not as much, but yeah, you take a big chunk of steel and you whittle it down,
Yeah, pretty
for
much.
lack of a better word,
Yeah.
and then you do some gauging, then you put it in the ovens, and you do all the other stuff, and then you temperature comp, then you do your testing, and then our engineer, the one guy is funny because if you smell something burning, sometimes someone didn't gauge it right, and he thinks it's a bit easier to just burn them off. Sometimes you'll just scrape them off. It just depends on
Uh,
what was done. But the burning them off's funny because what's this?
Yeah.
But of course, our goal is to help more people. I think the more people that become customers of ours, Chuck and Howard, for force measurements, I think the more that are going to make better measurements and have some recovery on lower PFRs and, of course, lower PFAs and
mhm.
all that stuff. The goal is create the safer world, right? However we get there. If it's through education, if it's through helping people with things, that's good. You only have so much limited resources, and the
True.
other pieces, you have a return on
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
So you want those customers that want to do more of the right thing. You want them, that the quality people that are going to fight with their boss that says we've done it this way for 20 years, you're wrong, and the quality guy's like, yeah, no, you're wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and here's
Yeah.
why.
We love to take advantage and embarrass you. Do you have any mentors that you've had growing up that you would look to, that in the metrology community, outside the metrology community? Any mentors that helped you become who you are?
I'm still, according to Lord Shaw, I'm still a Padawan apprentice. So I would say, yeah, Dillip's. I took a class with Dillip in 2010, like uncertainty and measurement down in Lithicum, Maryland. And this guy comes in and he's like speaking a little funny at the time and
Uh-huh.
everything else. And I'm talking to him like, who is this guy? And at the end of the 2 days, I just thought he was just one of the best classes I ever had. And for whatever reason, Dillip and I became friends. We've been friends for a while. We talk to each other every week. And I would say he's one of the best mentors. He's mentored some
Mm.
other friends and
Yeah.
everything else.
I got a question now. I'm looking at the artwork in the background there,
Oh, yeah.
and the one that's the deadweight press, it looks like on the and with
Oh, yeah.
yellow
My
background.
wife did that.
Did she really?
Yeah, she did that as an original.
I like it.
Nice.
Very well done.
Nice.
And the other one, what's the one behind you with the looks like
Oh,
a
that's a book. I did an ebook. That's just we had someone on Fiverr do that one for
Oh, okay.
the first version of the ebook that was like 200 or 180 pages. I think the version one. Now we're going to release the next version that's free for people. That's 400 some pages of everything
Nice.
course. Then I might turn around and write a torque one, but I'm pretty exhausted after 400 plus pages on
Yeah, that's a
course.
lot.
Is that your decision book? Henry?
No, the decision rule book, Dillip, Greg Senker, and I did that one. We just wanted to be free too. That Chuck's read that, Howard. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's look. I was struggling with decision rules, so the thought
Mhm.
process on that one was, and so was Greg, and we had Scott Mims come out and Dillip, and we just said, look, we want to make this easier for people. We didn't.
Right.
I think we made a hard topic, probably a medium topic. I'd like to go through it again and make it give like a lot more examples of do this if you don't know. And like I
Now, I
said,
don't
I've
know that you
learned
can
more
actually
since
make
then.
decision rules for dummies level, but you've already made an improvement there if you
Yeah.
made it easier.
It's tough. Decision rules for dummies is tough. I mean,
Yeah,
method 5 and method 6 is for dummies, right? Two choices.
that's
Until
it.
you know what you're doing, pick one,
Yep.
right? I mean, that would be
It's a
decision
start.
rules for
It's a stake
dummies.
in the
It's a
ground.
start. Yeah, because otherwise, man, there's a lot of stuff. And then you get into Howard Kastrup's stuff, and they were going in NCSLI, what, RP18, that
Hmm.
it just goes, you've lost the majority of people when you
Uh,
start doing, like, you make it too difficult.
I
Howard's
was
great. I don't want to say
yes.
anything. His stuff is awesome. His wrist
Oh, it
guard, I
is.
still use his wrist guard free download software. I have it on my desktop on all my computers. So, and that
Yeah,
was like done in 2006 or something. So.
yeah. Around that time, six or seven, I went to the Philly area and did I was a guest speaker at the J&J conference for all the metrology people that they brought in from all their divisions. And they wanted training on a couple of topics. One of them being how do I figure out my cal cycle changes? How do I evaluate equipment and figure out, what the cal cycles should change to? Well, that gets into a lot of detail, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I started with RP1 and I said, okay, there's 6 methods here. Here's what they are, right? Without getting into the math of especially method 6, right? And getting into the differential equations anyway, all I
Yeah, with
did
the
was
RP A3 and all that stuff. I think,
yes.
yeah.
And all I did was just describe what the methods were. And unfortunately, it was right after lunch. So they were falling asleep. They were bored. They were just like, oh my gosh, I can't take any more of this. And I wasn't even getting into the math of it. Right. So, yeah, those things can be very complicated and you can lose your audience pretty quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a
I
lot of
agree.
people don't know what they're doing, so therefore they just end up not doing anything. Like the
Mhm.
Rush song, you can choose not to decide, but you still made a choice.
I love that. And I have
Exactly.
Rush tickets, by the way.
Oh, did you? Yeah, their
Yes,
drummer's it's gonna be good.
it will be. So I
Yeah.
figure if Annika Niles is good enough for them, they're good. She's good enough for me. Of course, I'm a drummer and I miss Neil Peart. He was my mentor for being a percussionist, but he's been gone for 10 years. Is it 10 years now? Been gone a long time.
Yep,
And
and
I
he hid it
love
from
that they're going
people
to
and
get back on the road. And I've got tickets for Fort Worth and for LA.
oh, that's awesome. You
Yeah,
know what's funny about Rush, with me, is that first album, Neil was not even on, it was
right.
Working Man and
Working
In the
man. Yep.
Mood. I love that album. I
Hmm.
like yeah, it's still freaking an awesome album, even though Neil's
Absolutely
not
is.
on. I mean, they
Yeah.
got better with Neil, the songs got more intricate and stuff, but man,
Well, I mean, he was writing a lot of their lyrics, right?
yeah, I mean, Fly
So
By Night,
speaking
yeah.
of which, a lot of our guests are musicians as well. Do you play any musical instruments?
I played guitar for a little bit. I don't really play much anymore. I
Yeah.
wasn't. I was more, I wanna recreate and learn how to play songs, and I didn't learn the theory, so that was
Mhm.
stupid on my part. I should get back to it. I have, like, 3 guitars. I'm very I'd sit there and learn to tap Thunderstruck and learn to play Cathedral and,
Yeah.
it's like, "Okay, that's the one-trick pony. I'm gonna, freaking, hammer with Thunderstruck and then Cathedral, you just do the same thing, hammer and volume up down with the pedal." So yeah,
So it's
yeah,
hard for that to use that to make your living. So which is
yeah,
why you've done the same thing I've done. Right? You went into engineering, metrology, you got into the more detailed things that society needs more of. Not that music isn't important, it is very important to me and to a lot of people.
I
But
love music.
it's the same inquisitive thought process that you followed to get into where you are today
Mhm.
that you'll follow to get back to music and master it at some point, right?
I
When you have
want to
more
get
time on
back
your
to
hands.
it because I am so into vinyl and collecting and the
Yeah.
old records and all that. I am so into this right now. I wish I wasn't because it was people used to give me their vinyl records.
Yeah.
So I had like a mass of like I'm into it and they would just give me boxes of vinyl. I don't want this. Now it's you go to the record store and you want to it's 10, 20, $30
Yeah,
for
they get
the
expensive.
albums. I was plucking like dollar. I'd go back and look at some of the stuff. Like an Aerosmith album was $3 and all this. So I've amassed like so much and I've just gone through and displayed it all at my home. And then I'm like, right now, so what people may not know. So then you have part of a band's collection. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I gotta finish it off. Like Pink
Yeah.
Floyd. Now I gotta go buy freaking Obscured by Clouds, the one
Uh,
album that I don't love. I gotta go do this. Rush, I haven't bought all their albums. I'm like giving up on that one. I
that's a
have the
lot of
early one. I
58
don't even
years of
have
it. That's a lot.
what's that?
58
Yeah,
years of albums from Rush, so
a
that's
lot
a
of
lot.
sets. I have a lot of their CDs,
Mhm.
and that's the trade-off. Like, if you have the CDs, do you still buy the vinyl? And then I'm like, "Well, I love this album." So I just bought Yes, Fragile. I ordered that one
Oh.
the other day. I'm like,
Mhm.
"Damn it, I don't have Yes, Fragile," and that's probably one of their best, if not their
Yeah.
best. And
Yeah.
I like finding the obscure stuff, like I like listening to full albums, not songs. Right?
Mhm.
So you go listen to somebody's like Eagles, you go listen to Desperado or Rush, you listen to In the Mood or Fly By Night or whatever. And you find these tracks that, you've heard the hits so many times, you find the obscure track and you're like, holy crap. A lot of these albums,
Stuff
they
I
tried
wasn't
to
aware
tell
of.
stories.
Yes,
Like
they do.
Quadrophenia by the Who. Like
Yes.
everybody knows Tommy, but Quadrophenia, it's freaking Love Rain Over Me is the last song. It's like phenomenal.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. So I
Okay.
assume then you have a good turntable, a good hi-fi stereo system, Marantz or
fair.
something like that?
I have fair, like Audio Technica. I'm in the $400 turntable
Okay.
range with a $150 needle. That's
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. I can't tell the difference. Chuck wants to push on, but what's the funniest thing about turntables, I think, is there's a great you have to look it up. Somebody took a $100 1978 turntable and a record, and they took a high fidelity and like a $750,000 setup, and they standardized they put them both to 96 hertz file, and then they standardized the volume levels.
Mhm.
And like 57% of the people said the $100 1978 turntable sounded
Really?
better. So
Wow.
I think there's things you can do like isolating good speaker wire and stuff. I'm in my setup about $1,000 and I'm more than happy with it. Would I like a better one? Yeah, but I'm not going to buy it. I don't
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Understood.
Well, how honestly, I think just about every single guest we had has a musical connection. I'm not kidding
Because
you.
they have, and I see
I
that
can't think
trend,
of
which is
one of
why I
our
asked that question now.
yeah, I can't think of one of our guests that didn't have a not a medical, musical connection.
Yeah.
So, okay, last question for the day for you, Henry. Do you have any favorite place that you visited or a favorite place you'd like to visit?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I like Dunedin, Florida a lot just 'cause it's walkable. There's like 8, 9 breweries, if you
Mhm.
go downtown, lots of restaurants. I like my wife and I typically like walkability. If we're gonna go on vacation, I don't wanna be bothered with cars or anything else. Just like, we'll go on hikes. Turks and Caicos we went to, that's super, super nice.
Mhm.
Um stayed there, walked the beach, and like look at the phone and see this is only a mile away. We'll just walk to it. Hopefully they have walking paths and stuff. But I got eaten alive by mosquitoes. They like my blood type at Turks and Caicos. So yeah, there's cool places. NCSLI, I thought San Antonio was cool. The Riverwalk down there, but we keep going back to Dunedin. But I haven't been all around, so I can't say that
Nothing
there's
internationally? Nothing besides the Turks, just the Europe?
international. Dominican Republic is cool down there. I don't know how it is right now. Been over to Europe and stuff. I have not been to Germany. I want to go to Germany eventually. So I heard the greatest NMI story over Germany that they're in
The
everybody's in a
PTV.
room and
Yeah.
and there's somebody knocked on the door and they like started cursing them and said, why are you disturbing us? We're in this very important meeting with everybody. And you under no condition should were you told to disturb us. And the guy said the joke was the guy said the vending machine was out of beer and they stopped the meeting and got on it right away. So yeah, I don't know if that's true or not.
National emergency.
Someone told me that, but then NIST and PTB are funny. You pit them against you go to like the shows when they used to attend. It's like NIST is the stepchild, in the PTB's eyes and stuff. But
I don't
I've
know. I
had
think
great
I hear PTB and I think of Pabst Blue Ribbon for
yeah,
whatever reason.
I like PBR. But yeah, PTB is great. Those guys are like what's cool is that all the NMI people are just fantastic. NPL's great. Anybody we come in contact with usually are very helpful. PTB's been
Mhm.
super helpful with torque. But it was funny. We were looking to get something calibrated, a large torque instrument. PTB was down, NMI Japan was down, CNOM was down, and our engineer wrote me back. It's like something about why is everyone's torque machine down? I guess we should. This is a good opportunity for us to build one. Like
Yeah,
okay.
there you go.
What you guys do? You guys have the best national torque standard in America.
Yeah, but it was built by NPL. We'll build our own. We're building our own
Oh,
on
you
some
are?
things, but yeah, yep. Mhm. Yeah, there's torque is just uh yeah, for listeners out there, there's a lot of error with torque setups and stuff, and there's I
Yeah.
don't think anybody's doing a phenomenal job right
Mhm.
now. So
Oh,
um
yeah. We
yeah.
could have a long we're gonna have to have another podcast about torque
I think so.
and
Yeah.
all the
Yep.
mistakes that are made in torque measurements.
Yeah.
The chubby checker measurements, the
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we mentioned that you've been a supporter of NAPT. When I say not only just you, but Morehouse
yep.
for 20 plus years. You guys have
Mhm.
supported NAPT. You've been anytime I've had a question, you're the answer. You're the guy I go to. So, I personally want to thank you and Morehouse for your 20 plus years of supporting us.
Well, thank
We'll
you
be
And
for doing what
celebrating
you
that
do.
in
That
Kansas City. The conference for NCSL is in Kansas City next
yep.
year, and we'll be celebrating 30th anniversary for NAPT. Would be glad to
That's
have you
awesome.
there. Yeah.
can you believe it,
I
Henry?
will be there. I'm looking forward for anybody that wants to go to NCSLI next year. There's the Hallmark Greeting Card Museum, which we
Mhm.
can organize a trip to, which I have to see. Like I don't want to see it, but I have to see it.
Yeah,
I
Kansas
think
City is the home of a number of companies. Hallmark, of course, Russell Stover Candies. There's a number of things here to see.
But that museum
Jazz
is one
Museum.
that
Yep.
I've been to the greeting
we're
card.
gonna have a big party, Henry, and we want you to come to our big party because
Awesome.
it's not too often. I know you're 100 years, but it's NAPT is 30, going to be 30 years next year.
Mhm.
And for me, it's a major milestone to spend 30 years with a company. It's just for me personally, unbelievable, time. So please come and bring your staff and
Yep,
help,
we'll
help
be there.
help us celebrate.
We'll
So
be there.
so
Some
with
bourbon.
that being said, I hear the music. I hear the fat lady singing that she's in the background.
Yeah.
Any last words, Howard?
No, the last words belong to you.
Okay. Well, as I like to say, if you want to improve your proficiency, your technical competency, then you need to sign up for a interlaboratory comparison today. So
And
with that,
I'll add to that because you can do everything right, but the proof is making sure that end EN ratio is below 1 when it's all said and done.
There you go.
exactly.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So with that being said, we'll see you on the next podcast, and thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.